say there's nothing quite like Tuesday nights at Kenilworth Road, and Arsenal found out the hard way. But crucially for them, they got the 3 points to keep their charge at the top of the table and keep in sight the hope that the Hoops, the Premier League title, will come back to North London this season. This is one kick from glory. I've been away last week, but I'm back today, and I'm joined by Matthew.
What's up?
And we're going to start off with that game between Arsenal and Luton Town that took place yesterday as of recording. A very entertaining, for the neutral. For the fans, it was quite fascinating, but a 4-3 victory for Arsenal, 7-goal thriller. Matthew, what was your take on that game?
Wow, man. What a game. What a game. You couldn't take your eye off really for a moment because, you know, anyone looking at that game, looking at a foregone conclusion, Arsenal come by and just going to steamroll and do their thing, following from a good result from the weekend. Had to fight for that one as well, really and truly, but still was marching on. It was anything but what a treat. What a treat on a Tuesday night. You know what? Credit to Luton. We've said before that this was if they were going to get anything from this season against any team, it's going to be their home game. So really and truly, if you were to tell a Luton fan, you would have Arsenal and Liverpool come into your grounds, and you're coming away from a point from both of them. Doesn't sound like a lot, but considering how the games panned out, I think they take your hand off for that. I mean, they drew obviously with Liverpool, almost drew with you guys, and at one point were ahead, but you know. They got their prerogative. You've definitely got yours. These are those kind of games. Okay, how you go and went last night. These are games you look back at the end of the season where you want to be where you want to be. And look, that goal made all the difference because now, regardless of what happens, you are top come the weekend. Doesn't matter what Liverpool and City do. Doesn't matter at all. And like, it just shows your mettle. It shows your determination, your grit. Like you never give up, and just how different you've approached this season. It was another goal scorer, marginal, but now you're top of the table. Now you're it's gaining every single time. So you never know after many weekends. Right now it's 5 points. I think it's 5 points. It's about 5 points. Next weekend could be. Who knows?
Yeah, so it's currently a 5-point gap with Liverpool in second place. Obviously, we've got some games taking place tonight as of recording, so that might change by the time you hear this. But as of right now, Arsenal are ahead with a 5-point gap. You did mention a good point about a change in approach this season, and that's been one of the complaints, feedback points from Arsenal fans, and I think just the general punditry as well with Arsenal this season, in that our style of football has changed considerably from last year. Last year, we were very quick out the gates in starting matches. And usually within the first 15, 20 minutes, we would have at least 2 goals, or we've had at least 6 or 7 shots. This year, it's a lot slower, a lot more measured. And I think the benefit of that is that it should help us in the run-in, in being able to sort of kill off games later on and having players more readily available that we'll need. For you, even with this game, obviously going 1-0 up in the 20th minute, Gabriel Martinelli, great bit of build-up play, nice interchange of passes, and got on the end of Saka's cutback. And obviously then Luton equalised from Gabriel Osho from a set piece. Like, how significant do you think this change in playing from Arsenal is, and how well will that kind of keep them going in their hunt for the title?
It's different from last year because you're fighting on, whereas last year, you know, your main fight would have been possibly with the Premier League and getting back into the top 4. Now that you're firmly in the top 4, you're now back in the Champions League. All right, granted, the Carabao Cup didn't work out, but the 2 main ones you're fighting on for, obviously the FA Cup following, you're fighting on more fronts, but you're also fighting to try and see how far you can get. None of this whole, the last time you're in Champions League, you got to round 16. You know, that was almost like your comfort zone for how many years. Whereas this time you can see a bit of a change in that. You're top of a group. You've technically kind of won the group. So it kind of feels like you're going down different angles, but you're going about the way that you know best. Much more methodical, much more efficient, much more organised. So like you said, a lot of these players that you have aren't going out gung-ho and wasting all their energy. You have to remember we've still got international breaks in between as well. We know how we feel about those. But you can just see the difference because from when you went gun-ho last year, your points slowly went down to how far you were on top. And then City literally came around the last corner of the season,
true.
and did what they did and got there by 5 points. So where you are now, this is the first time I think it was the first time you were top since the season started, if I'm mistaken. But like I said, the gap probably looks like it's going to grow. You got City stuttering, you don't know what Liverpool are doing, and you got the outside of dark horse, that's Aston Villa, that will fade off eventually. If this goes away, I think it's going to go. That gap will widen. It will definitely widen to the point where it'll get to like February, and they can't get you. Okay, your personnel is different, your approach is different, and you know your priorities are different. So you never. I mean, I'm not going to say you're going to go ahead and do a thing in the Champions League, but you're not going to do what you did before. You're going to get further. I can see you getting further in the Champions League, and as for the Premier League, again, it is only December, but who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we keep going on in this winter. Because we've got January, football will pause for a bit, so the players will get a good rest, and then we'll kick back off again, I think late Jan, early Feb. So it will be interesting to see how the points look by then. Obviously, Man City did stutter a bit the weekend, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But I do want to highlight a couple of players for Arsenal, some good, one very bad at the moment. And in terms of the good players, you can't look away from him on a pitch for Arsenal, and that is Mr. Bukayo Saka. Even when he's having a quiet game, and most games he's not as explosive as people would want, he's still putting up numbers, still creating actions. He's double marked every match, and yet still able to get assists. Got a goal in the game at the weekend, got an assist today or yesterday against Luton. Very pivotal player. Do you think that this year is the year when Bukayo kind of announces himself in that I'm international certified and on the path to being a world-class player? If he's not already
He's kind of, I was to say, he's kind of already there, considering how pivotal he is, not just to Arsenal, but to, the England fold. He's probably, not including Kane and likes of Bellingham, if you're having 5 top England players, he's probably in the top. He's definitely in that top 5. And as far as Arsenal's play, he's definitely, again, one of those. I'm not going to say, you can argue about whether say he's the best, but he's the man at your club. If you're looking at the Premier League best players, his name will get mentioned abundant times. And you have to say that low key, he's doing what he needs to do. He's staying fit. He's staying consistent. I mean, he got player of the game in the Chelsea game, which I don't know how, which says probably how good he actually is. But like I said, he's managed to keep this. His approach last year was different, whereas this, it's much more, it's level, which might appear boring to a lot of people. But if you look at this, if you can't, the way we look at how good footballers are, it's always that kind of linear way of path of looking at just how measured and good they are every single season. And you have to say, so far, he's on track to do better than what he did last year, especially if he brings home what is possible, especially. Plus, with the Euros next year, that's also possible. Well, he's going to want redemption for that. You know he will. So next year, the year of 2024, we talk about the likes of Bellingham, we talk about the likes of Holland. Next year, 2024, could be the year of Bukayo Saka. And in the summer, his stock is going to go up massively, which puts you in a, well, not you specifically, but Arsenal in a bind, because don't think other people will not be watching him.
I think the key thing with that is our ability to be successful. I know with the key players that we'd be concerned about, Saliba, Saka, and Martinelli. I think for all three of them, if we can keep not keep competitive, if we can start winning big trophies again, that will prolong how long they stay at the club. I think with the three of them, they all have a love for Arsenal, but you always want to be playing at the best with the best players and winning the best trophies. And if Arsenal aren't competitive or aren't able to win a trophy, if we can't win one of the big two this season, or even if we can't get an FA Cup and come so close in the league this year, then next season will be pivotal, because if we can't go on a run and win it next season, as if it doesn't work out this year, then I can see at least 2 of those players leaving, because their contracts will be up for renewal again coming season. So.
And they'll slap on the price tag, but don't underestimate another one of these. I'm not even saying in England, but one of these clubs will go out there. We see how these players' prices have gone crazy. It won't stop them. Plus, he's still a young boy right now. He's still very, very, very young. So he's got years ahead of him. But you look at the likes of, say, granted they haven't won anything at the clubs yet, but you look at the likes of Bellingham and what he's doing at Real Madrid, he's on track to do something. The same thing happened with Jack Grealish when he signed that thing in Villa and then dipped off to Man City. He started winning. What Rice has done, he won at the thing and he went to Arsenal. So he's, especially with a lot of these young English players, granted Mason Mount went backwards, but granted, a lot of these young English players want to see to start winning, the pressure that's around them, especially here and go for the Euros and just how far we've gotten. They want to have some kind of silverware to talk about. I mean, he already has an FA Cup in his locker and, a couple of good wins against Man City with the Community Shield and stuff. Like, he'll want more. He want more. And I know for a fact he'll want to do it at Arsenal. He wants that. And we said last year was his best chance. This is his best chance.
Yeah, it's a big season. And yeah, I think those players are important. Obviously, you mentioned Declan Rice, and he's one of the players that's on my list of, guys that have just come in who are just doing really well and, are clearly cementing themselves in that world-class conversation. With Declan Rice, thank you, West Ham. Bargain. We'll be back again, another one of your players soon. I'm not going to say which one, but there's a couple of players in your club that we think could do with the move. But the guy, to me anyway, he's not only cemented himself in our team, he's not only on his path to being a cult hero with Arsenal fans, but I think he's someone who every single game week, he is just so consistent. And now he's adding that goal-scoring touch, which he had at West Ham. But it's like he stepped out of the I need to be defensively secure position and he's popping up with key goals. He did it against Man United at home, did it against Chelsea at the Bridge, done it now at Kenilworth Road, which is not an easy place to go to, irrespective of their troubles this season. I can't even say how impressed are you with Declan Rice, because we've talked about how significant he is and what impact he's having on the team. But did you think he would settle this quickly and effectively be one of Arsenal's captains on the pitch?
In terms of play, no. In terms of leadership, yes. He was the captain at West Ham. Those things you said that he did, stepping up against getting that equaliser against Chelsea when it was not like to happen, the goal against Man United and that very late one last night with 30 seconds to go, that's what leaders do. That's what leaders do. They come up and they don't even necessarily do the spectacular, but they just do what needs to be done and lead by an example. You look, remember Company 2019 against Leicester? 80 something minute, he has a crack. That's what leaders do. They do it at pivot. And that could have been, funny enough, even if that was 1-0 and he got that goal, it still would have been pivotal. It still would have been a massive game for you guys. It was just how far it would have got. But this is what happens when you have leaders across the pitch that aren't even necessarily your captain. You get those unique moments where they just step up and they do what's got to do. And that has to have an effect on all the other players there and wanting to step up and do something like that. I know Odegaard's your captain, but, you've got other leaders like Rice, like, say, someone like Saka. He could be a future captain, and, someone like possibly maybe an outsider one like Ramsdale. I heard Smith Rowe was going to be your captain at one point in somewhere down the road. I don't know how true that is. But look, I've learned, I don't like talking about the past too much, but you see the most successful teams that go out and do the most, they have leaders in every single part of the pitch. Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, currently Man City. Now you guys, you're seeing what it means. Not necessarily captains, but leadership qualities. And as a leader, play-wise, I'm surprised, but leadership, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, he has definitely been a player that's just come on so strong. And carrying on from what he did last season, being instrumental in their run to the Europa Conference League victory, and they're going strong in the Europa League this year. That's West Ham, so they might do a double. We'll have to wait and see. But another man that I want to talk about, another signing for Arsenal this summer, Mr. Kai Havertz, who had a very rocky, inconsistent start, but has slowly found his feet, found his goal-scoring touch. Confidence is flowing, and that's now 3 goals in 3. I think 3 and 4 if you count all comps, but in his last 3 goals in his last 4 games. But he's been so influential in his playing with so much more confidence. Like, is this the player that when he was coming to Chelsea, is this the guy that you were hoping for? And how excited should Arsenal fans be with his progression so far?
There were glimpses of it at Chelsea. There were glimpses. There were but not enough of what was promised. It was the same thing with Timo Werner. We saw the glimpses of what the player that we got, but we just didn't see it enough. And he's a fascinating player. He really is a fascinating player because you just don't know where quite that he works. He's like you don't know what you want him to be. Do you want him to be in a false nine? Do you want him in an 8? Do you want him on the wings? I mean, at one point they're playing it left or right back. What's stopping him from being in goal? He's one of those. I can't describe it in a team where it's like you just have that player that does something, but they just kind of like a utility player sort of thing. Is he a Milner? Is that what he's meant to do? I don't know. But at the moment, from the glimpses of what I remember, like that run going up to the Champions League, and I think the cup run he had as well, if you can get that times 10, you're on for a troublesome player. Because at his best, there were some times where I loved watching him, and I think it was the third season we had him, it all went a bit wrong. Granted, having 3 messages from different managers doesn't help. You are on for something quite exciting if it goes right, which at the moment it is, but the wrongs are really wrong, but the lows are low. So if he keeps it going, I'd be like, yeah, he's an option. He's like a ace in the hole, a wild card even kind of player. So yeah, keep it going, and as long as he's scoring, that's all that matters. That's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah,
he's known for the important goal as well. He's known for the important goal.
Yeah, I'm hoping he can keep this run going. For me, the goals are important because we knew that his contributions defensively and in that kind of phase of play has been quite important for the team. In the Community Shield, when he played up front as a false 9, he was really effective, confusing the City back line. But the thing that's been missing is it's not so much just the goals, it's the directness on the ball. Like there was a dribble he did in the game against Luton. It's around the 89th minute or 87th minute. And he just took it from the halfway line and just drove at their back line. And it's the kind of stuff that he hasn't been doing a lot this season. I remember there's a few games at the Emirates when he had space and time to turn. He just got the ball and just laid it back first time, set it to his teammate. I think the Man United game as well when I was there live, it was one of the big frustrations for me. It's just like, you got space, turn. And he just wouldn't turn.
He didn't do that. That's one of the problems I had with us. Just didn't see it enough.
So the fact that he's done it in these last few games is good, and I hope he keeps it going. I like the type of goals he's getting because they're all very similar finishes. He's getting that third man run. It's the thing that I saw I thought we would do when we let Xhaka go and he replaced him. Those runs in the box, those movements in the box with Xhaka, to his credit, was doing most of the time to get goals, but not enough of the time. And Havertz now is starting to get the feel for it, and I think there's a lot more goals out there for him, and he should still be able to make that hope and expectation I had from him in pre-season in the numbers, in being able to get more goals than Granit. But it's early days. We'll see how it goes. One final thing on Arsenal. I have to talk about the goalkeeping position because it is getting to a point now where it is a problem. And it reminds me a lot of when we played Rob Holding in the run-in last season. Every man and his dog could see that it wasn't working with Rob. And we persisted until we finally gave Kivior a start. And the difference. It's like, why didn't we try this before? Do you think Arteta needs to... 2 questions. Do you think Arteta needs to reconsider the Ramsdale situation and maybe bring him back in and keep him in for a while? And do question marks need to be asked of Arsenal's goalkeeping coach, who has recommended Runarsson, who you may even know who he is. He punched the ball in the net against Man City on his debut in the Carabao Cup.
He did, yeah.
Ramsdale, who clearly is not good enough anymore, and Raya. Less said about Raya, the better.
So should I be concerned about it? I mean, the funny, weird thing is that you got 2 number 1 starters. So the fact that you've got, and this is a position I can actually talk about quite recently because we had 2 number 1s last year and we didn't know who to trust. You had Mendy who'd fallen off the face of the earth. You had Kepa who couldn't stop anything more than 10 yards. So it's that's your worry at the moment. That the man between the sticks is your worry, because that's 3 shipped against Luton. He had one, was it Wolves you played against on the weekends, and one against Wolves, and one against Wolves. But over time, you're getting the wins, but these kind of things that they add up, and it's the kind of thing that was the granted that you won, because if you drew, goal difference I think would have been the same as Liverpool, and Liverpool won, it would have been, and they scored literally just one goal, that would have been up top. I was surprised after the whole, because Ramsdale played against Brentford, which was now a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, because Raya was cup-tied. Ineligible.
Yeah, he's ineligible. Did he play in the Champions League? Was it Ramsdale in the Champions League?
No, it was Raya, straight back in.
So my thing is, I think we've said this before, is keeping them both happy, because you've got 2 starters, you've got 2 alphas vying for position, and they're going to wait for someone to choke. The problem is right now they're both choking. So your coach, who previously recommended Likes and Runnison, something's got into his mind, or something's got into his head, where it's just like he's not too. I don't know if he's not too worried about the situation, because everyone else on the pitch is doing their job. It's just a man between the sticks it seems to be an issue. It could be a case of a little bit of infighting there, and Arteta's focused on so much out there is the one area where it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. Now,
just to add on that, it was the goalkeeping coach that's recommended these players. So his name is Inaki Kana, and it's a bit of a weird one, because it's like, again, with Raya, like, okay,
who started well.
The equalising goal from this corner, that's a hard one to save. I mean, a taller goalkeeper probably gets there, but he couldn't dive far enough across. The goal that's more egregious to me is Barkley's goal, because that's gone under his body. It's quite close to him.
Yeah.
Yes, it's low down, but it's the kind of mistake with the pressure he's under, you don't want to see. Obviously, Adebayo's goal, he went to try and punch the ball, didn't get anywhere near it. Clean header in the back of the net. It's not the first time we've seen that from set pieces.
Yeah.
He's a very aggressive goalkeeper, but we're not seeing the reassuredness at the back.
Yeah, hot-headed. Like, he was in goal for the Chelsea game with Mudryk.
Yeah.
He was also in goal for that. Who's your next game?
Next game.
That could be key. Because they got Liverpool coming up soon. I know that much.
So at the weekend we have Aston Villa away. It's weird. I would start Ramsdale.
I was just about to say the same thing. He's more of a hostile crowd.
Yeah.
He's much more of a hostile crowd. So the way you look at it, you got 38 games. That's 19 either way. The logic says you cut them halfway down the middle. For the games at home, maybe play Raya. For the hostile games away, you got to play someone like Ramsdale, because the personality of him kind of comes through so much more. So if I'm a betting man, I think I would start Ramsdale on the weekend. Anyway, I just chalk it down to a bit of, maybe there's a bit of the harmony just isn't quite there. The harmony isn't quite there. They're both competing towards the same goal, but they also want to be the one to claim the fame. There's a reason why. If you look, I'm going to relate this to F1. There's a reason why eventually Hamilton and Alonso didn't work, and the reason eventually why Hamilton and Rosberg didn't work. Nobody wants to play second fiddle. So your goalkeeping coach has got to find a way to keep the peace somehow, because you want to give with Raya making some of these picky errors, which can prove costly, because if Declan Rice doesn't score that equalising goal, looking at this game in a different perspective,
the winner,
the winning goal, we're looking at this game a different way. So he's got to try and with Ramsdale, I think you need to give him that reassurance that he's going to start the games where he's going to be most effective. Whereas with Raya, you need to calm him down. That aggression, ain't healthy, and if you're going to concede goals as silly as that, he needs to. A goalkeeper, because I used to play in goal, needs to be calm. He needs to be reassured. Better if he's more vocal, but also he is a calming presence that that he's got it at the back. So the last thing you want to do is have the players, your fellow teammates, look at you and be like, if he gets mad, we're going to see another side of him. So that's your only place, I think, on the pitch I'm going to be kind of worried about at the moment, just because of the errors. And you wouldn't tell me that you're shipping 3 goals to Luton. So
it's a tough one. It's a problem created by our own doing. We did not need to bring in Raya this summer, but we did. We changed it up, and unfortunately, even though in the distribution of the ball, build-up play, he's performing much better than Ramsdale because he's doing the things the manager wants. Ramsdale wasn't confident to do the things he wanted to do all the time. In the shot stopping, saving, confidence part for the back line, it's not quite there. And the players are doing their best to bail him out, and they're trying to encourage him. And there might be games when he might save them with his saves, but at the moment, if you're Aston Villa, you are licking your lips at the prospect of having a go at him, shooting early, testing him at set pieces, and you don't want to have that vulnerability. I know Ramsdale got caught out with some goals last year, especially that game against Brentford where Pontus Jansson pinned him in the box and they got a goal from the set piece. So he's got his own vulnerabilities, but he was in the Team of the Year last season.
And he got to second. He did get you to second place.
So,
which, in the context of things, what was expected, ain't all that bad.
He can't be all that bad at all. But that's enough about Arsenal for this week. We're top of the table, 5 points clear as of recording, and we're happy. As for Chelsea, he managed to get a win after a couple of inconsistent results. A 3-2 hard-fought battle against Brighton, your feeder club. How are you feeling?
I'm just happy to get the win, man. We needed that. We needed after Newcastle. I mentioned it last week, absolute disaster against Newcastle. I'm glad that we just avoided that on the weekend. And while I'm happy for the win, I'm not happy about how it was an ugly win. It was a very ugly win, and sometimes you have to do that. But it was an ugly win again of our own kind of doing. So I'm slowly worried about. I've said this before, and this is a problem that you certainly don't have, and that's the word discipline in the team. I'm very worried about that. And everyone's saying that, it's not every day you have two captains sent off back-to-back games, which is something that would never have dreamt of happening in the past, but that's the past. So, yeah, I'm just happy for the win, man. But boy, how did we have to work for it, man? We worked for that.
Yeah, you had to work hard. Got ahead early, made it 2-0.
Enzo Fernandez.
And then Brighton pulled one back. Obviously, you went ahead to make it 3-1, and then they got a late goal. In different circumstances, they might have been able to make it 3-3, but you're doing what needs to be done. You're getting the results, but you're making it difficult.
Very difficult. That's my main worry, is just we're very good at so if you take things like the City game where we had to fight, you're going against the champions, all right, you're at home, but you're fighting and you got to match them energy for energy. Then the game against Newcastle, you kind of give to them in say space of 5 minutes. They get the goal and the second goal and the red card, the game is virtually done. And we were at risk of doing the exact same thing again against Brighton. I can't argue against the decision of the cards. I can't argue. Gallagher's he wears his heart on his sleeve like that, for the badge. But that passion can get you in trouble, and that's exactly what happened. Again, I've got no real complaints. And then we went ahead and we got the penalty, and then we protected the lead we have. You see, that's what you're meant to do. You're meant to protect the lead like that, not protect the defeat, protect the lead. Go out there and potentially get another one. Enzo gets 2, finally off the mark. But yeah, it was just. There are games for us this season. You're gonna get more games like that. It's just the first of many, but I don't like seeing it all the time. Plus, this next run of games we've got Man United tonight, but we got Everton after that. We got Sheffield United along the way, Wolves, Palace, Luton. All of those are winnable games. So none of them really, unless we're forced to, need to be ugly wins. Bar tonight. So we're in a good position again. We're a nice, healthy run of games. Let's get some results. No defeats. No defeats.
Well, this is probably one of the first games where Badiashile played at the back for a while, obviously back from his injury. And just looking at your shape, you had the 4-2-3-1. Do you think that's now the general way you're going to play? Obviously, there'll be players that will come in and out because Diassi was a right back. He probably wouldn't be there. He might shuffle across. It's probably likely to be him and Badiashile as his centre-back pairing when James is back fit. Obviously, left back, he had Colwell, but that's likely again to be Chilwell or Cucurella. And they're both available. Midfield, Enzo and Caicedo, seems like that's set as your 2. And ahead of them, that's where rotation can happen. You've got Sterling and Mudryk this week. Cole Palmer usually starts on the right, so options there. And up front, Jackson's holding his spot, but Roger's back and Nkunku's still to come. So it looks like Poch's slowly getting it together.
I mean, he's got like, he seems like he's getting blueprints all around, because for the run of games we had where we played like the likes of, I think, you and Spurs and Man City, that was one blueprint, and then we came back after the international break, didn't quite work. Got another blueprint now for when we played against Brighton, and then it did the job. We won the game, not the way that we wanted, but we won the game. I don't know. I'm not sure what the lineup will be tonight, but wouldn't be surprised if it's not something too dissimilar. Just give the captaincy to Thiago Silva. Just give the captain. All right, granted the legs aren't with him, but he's not going to get sent off. He's not rash. He's a professional. He knows the game by now. Make him the captain. Have like Reece and Connor learn from him, or maybe give it to Sterling again. Again, another Premier League general. Another one who knows what it's about. Having a better season this year, so I'm having a little bit more trust in him. But yeah, I think we're in that funny phase right now where we have the talent, we have the availability, but what we don't have is that grandeur, that weight to expect to go out and kind of put teams away, like Liverpool's, City's, and your Arsenal's. That general weight that you've built up just isn't there, because we're still very much a brand new team. If you take the team from that won the Champions League final against Man City 2 years ago, I think there's only Reece James, two players, Reece James and Thiago Silva. And that's it. So a team has changed literally in 2 years, and probably even less time than that, considering the summer we had offloading a whole load of players. So I think for a lot of times, it needs to be reminded the fact that this is the proper transitional time. But also at the same time, you do expect to be putting in better performances than that, because you now got a manager who knows what it means to work with young players. So while I think patience does need to be there, absolutely, I think more could be done on the pitch. We're still very much in the Carabao Cup. We've got a decent draw in the FA Cup with Preston coming next year. Get those runs in. And if it doesn't work on the table, let's say we finish like 8th or something, we've got 2 trophies, which means 2 guaranteed qualified competitions. You just never know. I mean, I don't like to be the one to adjust our expectations for the season, but I also have to be realistic by what I see. And we've had 2 games back from international. We've only won one of them. We've just conceded more than we've scored. But this is likely to happen. This is going to be the expectation for our season. So. But we really need to get a big win tonight against Man United. We haven't been for so long. Get that win tonight. Come on, they're so vulnerable. So let's do it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Man United's vulnerability in a short while. But let's move away from the Blues to the Reds. Liverpool winning at Anfield 4-3. Left it late, but where there's a will, there's a way. And where there's a way, there's a Trent Alexander-Arnold. Back with Adidas. I guess for the first time in his career with Adidas, but obviously was a fan from a child. His custom white, red and black Predators. It's almost like a throwback to David Beckham from 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003.
He knows about.
Amazing boot. But how important do you think it is for Liverpool, who have been quietly getting about their business and are almost certainly in that title race, no matter what anyone might think? How important is it for them to get this kind of a result at this time in the season?
Very, very, and they'll probably, similar to you guys, will look back at the season and depending what happens at the end of the year and being like, that was the one, because I think they were leading at one point at 2-3, very similar to I think your games were kind of parallel in a way, because it went 3-2 to them, then it went 3-3, then 4-3.
Yep.
So what it shows, 2 things. Number one, it shows your grit and your determination to win a game and do what needs to be done. But it also shows that there's certain teams that aren't going to roll over and just because you're a big team doesn't mean that we're going to just roll over. And they came away. They were away from home for them. No one knows what to expect from them. Then they got a very aging squad, a talented but an aging squad, and they had to fight for that. So they kind of have to show a little bit more respect to their competitors in that respect. But they did what they needed to do, and teams that are going towards bigger things like titles and things like that, they win the way they need to win. They got to dig deep. They will go ahead and dig deep, and they're only 4 points behind. Healthy 4 points around December. We don't know what it looks like the next.
No, five.
Oh, they're 5 points behind you guys, but it's not night and day. It's not night and day. You were way further ahead of City last year, and look what happened. So. This has the makings. If the goals keep coming out the way they did from Fulham, this has got all the makings of being end of season title. It's a freeway. It's gonna be a freeway clash. In fact, it kind of already is, because City stuttering. They've only got to wait for a certain player to come back, Mr. KDB, and that all changes. So, those was a very important, very vital win, and another one for the neutral, just rubbing their hands together.
Another key thing, Liverpool, they've got Sheffield United tonight as of recording. So again, as listening, you will know how that result went. So that the points might stay at 5, might go down to 4, might be down to 2.
Chris Wilder's back though.
And Chris Wilder's back, so he's got a point to prove as well. And he'll be excited to kind of put up a good defensive display for them. But I mentioned Trent Alexander-Arnold at the start of this section about Liverpool, and that first free kick, I know it came off the back of Leno, so they have to give it as an own goal. But the technique of Trent, I feel like we've reached this point when it comes down to players where we often debate for a national team, Trent versus James versus this, versus Trippier versus that. You just have to make a space for him. You just have to make it. And I think Southgate going into the next tournament, Trent has to start. I don't care if it's inverted right back. I don't care if it's in midfield as one of the 3. He has to start because his quality makes up for his quote-unquote deficiencies. And to be honest, defensively, he's not that bad. In Liverpool's run to the Champions League final, he was instrumental defensively. In their run to the Premier League title, he was instrumental defensively. So he's not weak. Yes, he has lapses in concentration, and yes, sometimes you can get around him a bit too easy for your liking, but I wouldn't say that he is, those problems mean he shouldn't be starting for the national team. Absolutely not.
No, like, you make a space. You make a space. If you don't fit the position, you make one. Like, you don't nurture, you don't neuter talent like that. You make a room, because it's a difference from, say, quarter-final to final. Genuinely that serious. His dead ball ability, that Beckham-esque kind of way he does, plus with the defensive, he can play defensive if need be. I've always thought that he can go down the route of Bale, where you kind of push him from the back to the front, and look what happened with Bale. Look what happened with, and we're talking about as if Bale missed out on parts of his career. He was instrumental, like pretty much most of Real Madrid's Champions League finals. He's got it in his metal where he can, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as him, but he can have similarities to him. Marcus might disagree, I don't know. But it bugs, not so much for Liverpool, because with Liverpool, you know where you stand. It's with England. It's just so irritating. For years, decades even, we're crying for right-back talent. Now you got Walker, you got Trippier, you got James, you've got Alexander-Arnold, and who knows of in the future. Like, you're so blessed for talent, and yet it's the same. I could predict if England were going to play tomorrow, I know who's starting that right. I just know, and I hear these arguments that certain players, they perform well for England and la-di-da-di-da. Since people have been saying that, we've made 2 semi-finals, a final, and a quarter-final. And if that final we made, we didn't win. So, yet these players might be turning up for, you might think that, and that might be true, but they haven't given us what we really want, which is that win. So, clearly what you're doing, Mr. Southgate, has got you that far. You need to think of something else. That includes making space for Trent, because another manager would do that.
That's true.
I've tried that I would, and many people look at me funny for saying this, and I stand by my decision. If there's one guy with a tournament you want to make that space and make it work, it's Mr. Mourinho. One last gasp. Tell me it wouldn't work. You find a room for him, not just him, Ward-Prowse as well. Make room for him, and who else knows? Like, this is the most talented England team in decades. And I'm scared that we've got nothing to show for it. It's going to be another golden generation all over again.
I hope not.
So he's got one. Not that he's got one more. This is his last tournament. Not Trent, because he'll be here for years. This is Southgate. This is his last tournament, in a tournament that I think we can win. Make room for him.
I hope so, because I don't expect him to figure it out, Southgate. I really don't. He has his way of doing things. He's comfortable. But I hope he can really maximise the talent pool we have in the national team, because there's so many players that are knocking at the door, so many players that you think now should be getting in the starting 11, or players that you think might give other players a tough time. Like, obviously, Grealish doesn't always start at Man City. You've got players like Cole Cole Palmer, who's doing really well at Chelsea. You expect he'll be looking to get starts and be performing for the national team. Sterling's been frozen out for unknown reasons.
Yeah,
Yet Maguire gets starts.
Yeah.
You know, granted, Maguire's having a good resurgence in his Man United career, but let's just be perfectly honest here. He should not be in the national team anymore. Players like Ben White don't get called up anymore, yet he performs.
Henderson gets called up.
Henderson still gets called up. You know, Calvin Phillips still gets called up, even though the guy can't even buy a match at Man City. Even when they're comfortably winning, can't buy a performance. So there's massive question marks for Southgate. And I think players like Trent Alexander-Arnold shouldn't be punished for your indecision or indecisiveness. Like, I understand the trauma you went through as a player. We're way past those days. We have almost won a trophy and we need to bring something home.
If you win it, no one will ever talk about it again.
We might.
We will, but we won't yeah.
But I guess on the notion of coaches, you know, we can't really talk about Liverpool's great success without mentioning the man that's heralding all of that, and that's Jurgen Klopp. Considering how Liverpool were last season, very inconsistent, very much felt like, I mean, at times I know in the podcast we debated whether it was over for Klopp and, you know, is it done? And I know Mark did say that he wanted to see how this season panned out, because with Jurgen, you know, he can go through those barren periods, but then when he gets it going, really gets it going. Looking at how Liverpool are playing this season, looking at the players they've brought in and how they're performing, what do you think's been the most crucial factor in their resurgence and their run for the title now?
I just think since that Tottenham game, they've reacted really, really well after the moaning, and rightfully so. The loss that never was. You know, they've reacted really well. They've got knuckled down and got focus. But they've also got players in there who are managing to stay fit. You know, a lot of players, they know, likes of especially likes of Naby Keita, and they're getting rid of other players that just needed to move on, that were there for a very long time. You know, likes of Henderson. Naby Keita, who granted had so much potential, never really delivered unless he played Chelsea. Fabinho again, great servant, needs to move on. Divock Origi, great servant, needs to move on. Likes of, you know, I think last year, because it was the year before they lost Mane, wasn't they? Yeah. But they've now plugged that gap with Gakpo, who's coming into his own. Obviously Darwin. And Szoboszlai as well. So the players they have, and there's Alexis McAllister now getting his first goal as well. The players now are finally very quick. They've gelled, but they've gelled quickly. So like what's happening with Rice is what happening with them. The players have gelled into the system very, very quickly. And like, so, you know, the other players have all stepped up to well. They've regained that consistency that made them such a formidable force a few years ago going up to the Premier League. And it's almost as if they've just kind of recuperated and not concern themselves too much with what other teams are doing. They're running their own race, and sometimes that can make you a bit wary and dangerous. They got that good result against City, 1-1. They equalised with us on the first. They drew with us on the first game of the season. They played Liverpool already. They played Man United already, but they beat Newcastle. They should have beaten Spurs. We're unlucky against Spurs. They got you guys coming up. So the games that it's like, I think the Spurs is the only game they've lost, isn't it, in the Premier League? I think they've only lost one. So they're getting wins, they're getting wins or draws against anyone that they need to, and getting those ugly wins like against Fulham as well. So yeah, but then generally just their fitness has improved too. So
yeah, so they haven't played Man United yet.
Mm-hmm.
Spurs is the only defeat they've had so far this season.
I think that the draw was at City. So, and that's, you know, not an easy thing to do. So, they've improved, proven fitness and got rid of players that have been there for like far too long. But they've done some very smart recruiting as well. The players that they will still put a shift in. I think it's also because some of the main players they kept that put a shift in are still there, like your Trents, like your Virgils, like your, you know, Robertson. So they still have, you know, they still have their main performers. If they can just get someone else in the midfield, they're going to be a problem. They're going to be trouble.
And what I'll do is I'm just going to compare the metrics between Arsenal and Liverpool right now, and actually Man City. Let's talk about all three and what they've been doing so far this season. So obviously Arsenal top right now, as of recording. 15 games played, 11 won, 3 drawn, 1 lost, 33 goals scored, 14 conceded on 36 points. Liverpool played 14 as of recording, won 9, drawn 4, lost 1, 32 goals scored, also 14 goals conceded on 31 points. And then Man City played 14 as of right now, won 9, drawn 3, lost 2, 36 goals scored and 16 conceded on 30 points. So you can see between the three teams, the good consistency is the goals conceded, in that we've limited teams, not conceded too many goals at this point, and the goals scored is respectable. It puts them amongst the most in the league. The other teams that have scored over 30 goals this season are Aston Villa with 33, Newcastle with 32, Brighton have 30 on the dot, and then Tottenham are behind with 28 goals. Man United have only scored 16 goals. I'm going to come on to them very shortly. But I think that's showing why they are where they are in the league. Those 4 teams in particular, and the Spurs in 5th right now, that's why they are in the top 4 and 5, because they're able to score goals and keep them out the net.
Shut up shop, yeah.
That's crucial. And like we said, I think Liverpool have definitely got the balance right with the players they've let go and the players they've brought in. Incredible strike for Alexis McAllister for his first goal.
Strike.
Like the kind of goal that Coutinho would be proud of, the kind of goal that Xabi Alonso did back in the day. We know Stevie G could drop them top bins. But,
Specials,
you know, Liverpool have a way of picking up really good midfielders that are able to produce magic like that. I think it's one of the things that I've always admired with their recruitment over the years, that they just get those players in, and hopefully for them, the good times can continue, but not too good. And I'm saying, like, obviously, do well, hold second for all of us. It'll be important. And keep Man City out of the top 2 spots. That'll be great. Let's move on to Manchester United. Now, they lost away at Newcastle 1-0. Another listless, poor, useless performance from them. The question I want to ask you is, because it's a couple of years now since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was moved on, and the belief was that he wasn't quite good enough to take him to the next level. How much better do you think Man United would be under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in comparison to how inconsistent it's been under Ten Hag, even though they won a trophy last season?
That's hard to say. That's kind of hard to say, because with Oli, at least you had vibes. With Oli, for a lot of the fans there, I think they were just happy to see one of their own. I think there was a period of time where a lot of clubs were experimenting the more sustainable way, the vibesy way of hiring a player that used to play for the club. Obviously, you started it by hiring Arteta. We did it with Frank. Liverpool were considering it in the future for someone like Gerrard. Obviously, he's gone off to things, so that's maybe not like to happen. Even across Europe, I think it was Pirlo with Juventus, and then
don't forget Frank Guardiola and Rijkaard at Barcelona.
Right, but Barcelona, and I think at least there were enough fans to keep it going because of true, like, just vibes FC. Ollie's at the wheel, it's something at least to kind of chant and get behind. Whereas and I don't think much was expected of him, of Ollie, because his managerial record is not stellar. I think he did best at Mulder. He got relegated with Cardiff. So what can you expect from a guy like that? I mean, a lot of them are still, and also a lot of them were holding on to that goal against Bayern Munich in '99. That he will always have that. You also got to check out the personnel. What kind of personnel Ollie would have had? Would he have got the likes of Hodgson? Would he got the likes of Mount, Anthony, kind of players to kind of let go as well? What do you say about that? It's hard to say because both the personnels are different and both their approaches are different, but at least he had that, whereas Erik Ten Hag doesn't. Erik Ten Hag came with a reputation from Ajax. Massive reputation with what he did with very little, whereas he's come here with a lot and has barely produced anything. And if anything, right now, there are no vibes. There are no vibes. The fans are miserable. Their performances have been poor. They're bottom of the group of the Champions League. They can't defend a win to save their life. I mean, go to Galatasaray and do that. I mean, that's just embarrassing. The performance against Newcastle is just, and even some of the old pundits right now can't get behind. So that's how you know this club is slowly dying from the inside out. Whereas at least again with Ollie, you know, he was part of that 92 squad, you know, that kind of famous squad that did what they did, and they understood what it meant to the club. Whereas now you've got a lot, as has been a problem for a while, a lot of good players, but with no heart and no care for this club. I think they're there, and I've said it before, and we had my Aunt Stephen on there, and you can disagree. These guys look good in the shirt. And that's it. That's it. And no amount of likes of Rashford or Hodgland or the likes of McTominay, it's not working. It's just not working. And that's coming from us. We're kind of in that, but we're at least going towards something. What are you going to?
And one thing I would say with Chelsea, even though your recruitment strategy felt, looked and smelt very scattergun, you can't deny that there is a lot of logic in the types of players you've bought. Maybe not necessarily the number, because you've got, for example, you've got Caicedo and Lavia who both compete for the same role in the team, and that's going to be a problem down the line. But the age profile of the players you've got, the potential they should have, and the money you'll be able to get back if it doesn't, if it works out, but you don't really want to keep them, you should get good money for them. But the ones who it doesn't work out, you're going to make a loss. But at least there's some logic behind what you're trying to do. You're getting young, promising players that have been crucial in their previous teams, and players that could potentially lead you to having a successful run of trophies in years to come. With Man United, it's been a lot of money spent on absolute dross, players who don't fit the league, don't fit the club, don't fit the culture and history of the club, and most importantly of all, do not perform. Like, I feel for Hodgland because, you know, from that goal being disallowed a couple of months ago, he's not really had an opportunity to get off the mark in the league. He's doing well in Europe, but in the league, he's not quite had that run. So I feel for him because he's trying.
He deserves better.
But he's young. He can't carry it on his own. Bruno, you know, he really is Marmite. When he's on it, he's on it. And I will put my hands up and say that's a very good player. But he doesn't do enough of the things that you'd want for a player in the number 8 who says that Iniesta is one of his footballing idols. It does not do it for me at all. Marcus Rashford, the boy that just hasn't grown up. No. Like he has not developed in so many seasons, and you'd think under Ten Hag that he'll get something out of him.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about an example I'd use is Dusan Tadic when he went from Southampton to Ajax. At Southampton, he was a player that had flash in the pan moments. You know, he could go a couple of games and look like a world beater, but most of the time he was like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 on the best of days. At Ajax, the guy's gone to be like consistent 7 out of 10, monster. Sometimes 9 and 10 out of 10.
Monster, absolute
and you think with Rashford, that's what we were going to get under Ten Hag, but instead what we're getting is 1 week 9 out of 10, 1 week 3 out of 10, 1 week 4 out of 10, 1 week 6 out of 10, 1 week minus 4 out of 10.
And get sent off.
Like, what are we doing here? Like, and it annoys me because I know sometimes, you know, when you watch from, you know, on TV and you see him, he looks like he's not tracking back, he's not jogging. That might be managerial instruction, so I don't really know. But when he does get the ball, sometimes it's just too much hero ball. Like, we just need more from him. We need more.
Yeah, this is why I said, I remember saying that at his peak, Rashford's peak, is I know it's not working for him right now, but you don't become a bad player overnight. With someone like Eddie Nketiah, you can look at something like that potential that you can get, you know. And also, let's not forget, Rashford's not a young boy anymore. He's grown. You could almost call him a Premier League 30 because he's been there long enough. He's been in the fold. He's meant to be the one dragging that Man United line. And considering how good people hype him up to be as good as Mbappe, you probably say he should be leading that line. But all the managers he's had from Van Gaal to now, it hasn't happened. You got to ask why.
And I think with Rashford, the annoying thing is last year he was really good and put up some good numbers. Yeah. And he just hasn't quite started this season. And I think at this level, you need to get that consistency. Even if you're not getting goals week in, week out, at least affect the play. You can't be having 4 out of 10s. You can't be having... You know, you can't be having stinkers. Even when Salah has a quiet game, he's still done a lot.
Yeah.
He's a constant threat. You can't leave him because you know if you leave him, he'll probably put it in the back of your net.
Even if Saka has a bad game, he does something.
Yeah, and
assist
Saka has
or something.
quiet games, but even his quiet games, he's still making things happen because he's double, triple teamed. With Rashford, he gets that, and we know what you're good at. I mean, we mentioned Mbappe. I think one thing Rashford needs to do is perfect that cut in and shoot. Mbappe has perfected the drift in from the left, shoot it, go near post, not even far post, which you'd expect. He doesn't go for the Henry finish across the keeper. He goes through the defender's legs, near side. Keeper can't react. Rashford has the ability to knuckleball shoot it, coming in off the left wing and cutting across the goalkeeper and putting in. Make that your thing.
Yeah, have a
Like,
staple. Have a staple.
Like Ari and Robin had to chop it in off his left foot and put it across keeper. You knew what he was going to do, but you could do nothing to stop it.
Or the Hazard little woof on the right foot in the corner.
Players have their thing, so he needs to really define that. Man United need help.
And with someone like him at the age he's at, because he's still young, but he's not young enough to be like the next thing. Now you are meant to be the thing. He's in danger. If something doesn't happen in United, if something doesn't happen, he's in danger of his career just petering down to the point where he'll probably even leave and go to a lesser club and be one of those players that could have been but never was.
Do you know what? I think a move he could make, which would be a bit of a downward step in many regards, but depending on how things pan out for them, would be a smart move. Go to PSG and bring them their first Champions League.
That could work.
Because you'd play through the middle, because Mbappe plays off the left. You could interchange positions with him. It would give you the opportunity to, well, you're going to win leagues every season. That's a given, so you can get trophies. But in Europe, it'll give you a chance to kind of show more of what you're about. Because at PSG, Gonzalo Ramos is not really working out. Rando Muani, he's okay, but he's still developing. You could come in as a more experienced head above those two and kind of make it your place. But other than that, make it work at United. I think rediscover what you had last year. Maybe the players around you aren't stepping up. Obviously, youngsters like Kobe Mino looks really good. McTominay's having a good season, but again, as good as he is and as good as he performs, he can't do it on his own. But at the same time, he's not quite at that level. And he always regresses back. Garnacho, he's young, burns hot and cold, but he's still trying stuff. And obviously, Martial needs to get moved on because he's just not good
He's
enough.
still there.
Still there for now, but needs to get moved on. I guess looking ahead to what's coming, obviously, we're going to ignore the fixtures that are taking place now live as of recording because, you'll know what's going to happen. So we're going to skip past all those. We'll look forward to seeing how those matches go. But looking ahead to the weekend's games, Palace, Liverpool at Selhurst Park, what are you expecting?
They have history.
They do have history.
But I can't see Liverpool not winning. But I don't think it's going to be an open. It's going to be like a 2-1 Liverpool.
I'd love a draw, but I see Liverpool win as well. Brighton, Burnley at the Amex.
Brighton.
Yeah, Burnley are having a really tough time. I'm concerned about Company because he might be at risk. Man United, Bournemouth at Old Trafford.
I can see that being a draw.
Sheffield United, Brentford. Sheffield United, that'll be Chris Wilder's second game back. First managerial sacking of Paul Heckingbottom getting let go as they are rooted to the bottom of the table. Obviously, they got a chance tonight, as of recording, to do a shocking thing and get points off Liverpool at home. But if not, this is their second game for Chris Wilder and against Brentford.
More like to get something here, but maybe a 2-2, 1-1.
They'll be hoping for more, but we'll see. Wolves, Nottingham Forest at Molineux.
Oh, it's one of them games, isn't it? It's one of them. I'm disappointed in Forest, actually. They're not doing what I thought they could do, and that's make a push to the top half of the table.
Yeah, they've regressed a bit the last couple of games.
Didn't do well. Everton had their number the other day as well, just couldn't get going. I know it's boring. Maybe a 0-0.
0-0. And then we have Arsenal Villa. We've mentioned in the pod earlier, but Arsenal Villa at Villa Park, evening game.
Depends on who you play in goal. If you play Raya, I'll go for a shock Villa win. But if you play Ramsdale, I'm going to go for a hard-fought Arsenal win.
I think if we can get a goal early, I think we need to go like last season and get 2 goals in the first 15 minutes to really kind of quiet them down and then just control the game from there. But not control the game like we've done recently and get complacent, but just control it and be very aggressive in that. So I want us to win. I believe we'll win, but it's going to be a tricky game.
Slight gun ho attitude.
Yeah.
Only slight.
Yeah, because they can hit you on the breaks. You don't want to be too reckless. Then on Sunday, we got Everton Chelsea at Goodison Park. Have to say, for Everton, really impressive the run of games they've gone on, and they are so close to escaping the bottom of the table. A 1-0 win at the weekend away, or at home actually, they won. So I'm really impressed with what they're doing. But yeah, let's see what they're going to... Oh, away actually to Nottingham Forest, they beat them.
They have a knack of scoring. They can score a lot of goals despite being quite defensive. I'm worried about the likes of Decore because he likes a headed goal. We don't. You know what? Whatever. I'm going for 3-2. Another 3-2. Another high scorer.
Fulham, West Ham at Craven Cottage. I'm going for West Ham win, personally.
Yeah, West Ham, yeah.
And then Luton versus Man City at Kenilworth Road. I know what I would like. How well they performed the other day, I would love them to get a win or a draw against Man City, but I think Man City will get the 3 points. Tough one. It's annoying. And then the teams that are both suffering with the most injuries ever, and no one's ever had injury crises before, Tottenham versus Newcastle at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
They did well against City. They did well. They haven't won them for a while, have they?
Against Newcastle?
No, Spurs haven't won a game at all. They've lost the last 2. When they drew against City. I'm going to go for... Sorry. Might go for a Spurs win. It could be coming back. Like a narrow Spurs win. A revenge for the 6-1 at St James's Park last year.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Spurs' last 5 games, so they beat Crystal Palace, then they lost to Chelsea, lost to Wolves, lost to Aston Villa, drew against Man City. It could be a turning of the tide, but to be honest, you guys know what time it is. We're going to lose at home to Newcastle, all right? The Geordies are going to take that one. I'm going to say a 2-1 win to Newcastle. Dubravka, man of the match.
Come on.
And that's it for us this week. So, yeah, like we said, there's games going on tonight. Lots of exciting action. Brighton, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Fulham, Nottingham Forest, Sheffield, Liverpool, Sheffield United, that is, Aston Villa, Man City, and of course the massive one, Man United versus Chelsea. And then on Thursday, there's Everton, Newcastle, and Tottenham, West Ham United to end the midweek fixtures. But we'll see how those are, and we'll reflect on those and the weekend's game on our next episode. Thanks for joining us. If you like that, please do comment and subscribe. Who are you backing for the title? Are Liverpool going to do it after last season's little blip? Are Man City going to do 4 on the bounce like Pep Guardiola said they would as he fired shots at Carragher and co? Or will Arsenal finally do it on the 20th anniversary of the Invincibles? Will the Premier League title return to the Emirates and be paraded around North London? We will find out in May, but we'll see you next time.
Peace.